Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kat, and to my returning curious kitties, welcome back. This is a space where we look at the unexplainable, the strange, and the mysteries of the world with an open mind and no judgment. These are allegedly true stories that have not been confirmed. I share them solely for entertainment purposes. So go ahead, grab your drink or snack of choice, settle in, and let's get curious. Our first story tonight is a haunted house tale that starts out creepy but is absolutely terrifying by the end. When our narrator was 19 years old, they moved into a run-down 2-story house with their mom and sister. It was an old place, the kind of house where every floorboard creaked with deliberate precision and the shadows just seemed a little too heavy. Downstairs had 3 rooms. Their sister claimed 2 rooms, while their mom took a bedroom upstairs. That left our narrator with the largest room in the house. A room that, oddly enough, nobody else had wanted. Inside the closet was a second full-size door. It wasn't just closed, it was heavily nailed shut, secured with multiple nails and several old latch locks that looked like they had been added over time. Naturally, curiosity got the better of them. Why hide a room inside a closet? And why go through so much trouble to keep it sealed? One afternoon, armed with a hammer, our narrator and their sister decided to find out. They pried the nails free, and with a heavy groan, the door swung open. Behind it lay pitch-black windowless room with no light switch. The air was stale and heavy, as if it hadn't been disturbed in decades. Neither of them dared step inside, so instead, they stuck a camera around the frame, snapped a few photos using the flash, slammed the door shut, nailed it tightly closed again, and ran. When they looked through the photos later, every single image was filled with a dozen floating orbs, some small, others large enough to obscure parts of the room. Unsettled, they eventually tried to brush it off as dust, and over time, the story became a fun party trick before fading into memory. Until the morning, the door opened itself. Our narrator was working overnight shifts at the time. Coming home exhausted one morning, they walked into their room and instantly felt a heavy, uneasy dread. Instinctively, they glanced over at the closet. The hidden door was standing wide open. Not cracked, not unlatched. Wide open. Knowing for a fact that they had nailed it shut themselves, our narrator screamed and bolted downstairs. Their sister helped them nail the door shut once more, but the damage was done. Our narrator refused to sleep in that room for nearly 2 months, sleeping downstairs instead with their sister. Eventually, they eased their way back, moving their bed as far from the closet as physically possible. Time passed, the fear faded, and our narrator started dating an old friend, the woman who would later become their wife. Having her sleep beside them every night brought back a sense of safety. They thought the room was finally done bothering them. Then came the night that changed everything. In the middle of the night, while both of them were sound asleep, our narrator suddenly felt a hand forcefully grab the back of their hair. Their head was yanked upward and violently slammed sideways into the solid oak nightstand. The impact was so loud and sudden that it jarred their girlfriend wide awake. Confused and terrified, she asked what happened, but her narrator had no answers. That was the absolute last night they ever slept in that room. Not long after, they moved out together. Years have passed, and while most strange things in life can be rationalized, thinking back to that house, the nailed door, the orbs, the door opening on its own, and the physical force that wanted them out still brings back immediate chills. Our second story tonight is a spooky mystery that'll have you wondering exactly what was going on here. Mimic, skinwalker, ghost, or just a child's overactive imagination? Whatever you decide, there's no denying how chilling this experience must have been. This story goes back to when our narrator was just 5 or 6 years old, living in an apartment complex. Part of them still desperately wants to believe it was just a strange childhood trick of the mind. but deep down, the memory remains chillingly vivid. It started on a cold winter morning when our narrator's dad asked if they would help him bring the Christmas tree up from the complex's shared basement later that afternoon. Fast forward 4 or 5 hours, our narrator was sitting in their bedroom with the door shut when they heard their dad's voice call out from the hallway. He asked them to come help with the tree and suggested stopping by a neighbor's apartment on the way to see if they needed assistance down there too. Strangely, he didn't open the bedroom door to talk, something he always did, and instead spoke strictly through the closed wood. Our narrator followed instructions, popping down one floor to check on the neighbors before heading back to the stairwell landing. Standing there waiting silently was their dad. He didn't say a word, he just turned around and began descending the stairs toward the basement. But the way he moved was deeply uncanny. He was dragging his body weight awkwardly, wobbling violently side to side like he could barely keep himself upright. As he dragged himself down the steps, the only sound filling the echoing stairwell was the loud, distinct jingling of his keys in his pocket. When they finally reached the bottom, he stood completely rigid in front of the locked basement door. Without turning around, he muttered in a flat voice, "I don't have a key." Panic immediately set in. Our narrator had just spent the entire walk down listening to his keys jingling in his pocket, and their dad kept every key he owned on that single keychain. Thinking he was having some sort of severe medical emergency based on his bizarre movement and speech, our narrator panicked, turned around, and sprinted back up the stairs. Looking back down one last time, they saw him still frozen in that exact stiff posture, staring blankly at the door. Bursting into their apartment, our narrator ran straight into their mom's room, crying hysterically and screaming that something was horribly wrong with Dad in the basement. At that exact moment, their dad casually strolled into the bedroom from the kitchen. He was completely fine. In fact, he swore he hadn't been to the basement all afternoon because he had already brought the Christmas tree up by himself first thing that morning. For years, our narrator tried to chalk it up to a hyperactive childhood imagination, subconsciously conjuring an image of their father. But after experiencing other unexplainable events later in life, that imagination excuse just doesn't feel quite as comforting anymore. Our third story tonight is honestly so unsettling to me. An ordinary day spent playing in the woods turns deadly. When our narrator was a teenager and around 13 to 15 years old, they lived in a tiny remote countryside town in Missouri called Holden. With a tiny population spread out over vast farmland, their family lived on a secluded 50-acre property off of a quiet gravel road. Our narrator and their stepsister loved exploring the outdoors. Past their neighborhood, the gravel road turned to pavement, leading toward a hill with a bridge over a creek bed. Beneath the bridge was a favorite spot of theirs, a quiet area filled with cool rocks, crawdads, and frogs. To the far left, the creek was blocked off by a cow field enclosed in sharp, barbed wire fencing, essentially making the creek a dead end on that side. One evening, as twilight faded into dark, the two teens were down in the creek bed looking for rocks. Up to the right, the only clear exit out of the creek, our narrator suddenly froze. Standing right at the exit was a very tall, large man wearing ripped-up overalls. He was completely silent, staring them down. In his hands, he held a rifle. Before our narrator could even process the sight, the man slowly raised the rifle and aimed it directly at them. Panic and pure survival instinct took over. Our narrator grabbed their stepsister by the arm and yanked her to the left, straight toward the dead-end cow field. Their stepsister had no idea what was happening, screaming, "What's wrong? Why are we running?" But our narrator was in too much shock to answer, focusing entirely on getting them over the barbed wire fence. Our narrator shoved their stepsister over the wire just as the tall figure emerged from the creek and started slowly walking toward them. Trying to leap over the fence next, our narrator's shorts snagged on the barbs. In a desperate move to free themselves, they ripped their shorts off the fence, slicing their hand open deeply in the process. Free of the wire, both kids took off in a full sprint down the road toward their house. Looking back as they ran, they didn't see the man cross the fence, nor did he ever fire a shot or utter a single word. There was no warning, no "what are you doing?" Just a loaded weapon aimed at two kids playing in a creek. When they finally made it into their house, their parents initially thought they were making up a crazy story, until our narrator showed them their bleeding, sliced open hand. They never returned to that creek bed again, and to this day, our narrator knows that if those instincts hadn't kicked in the second that rifle was raised, things could have ended very differently. We've made it to our final story tonight, guys, and honestly, this story spooked me the most out of all of our stories this evening. Let me know if you feel the same way. This final story takes place in West Tennessee, near the Kentucky border, back when our narrator was around 12 or 13 years old. Their family of 5 decided to go on a weekend tent camping trip, a fun change of pace from their usual RV trips. They arrived late on a fall evening, setting up their tent on a raised wooden deck platform overlooking a quiet creek and surrounding forest. After a nice dinner, the family settled into their sleeping bags and drifted off to sleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, our narrator woke up needing to use the restroom. Leaving the tent, they walked over toward a nearby tree. Out in the distance, near the campsite's illuminated bathhouse, they noticed a tall, shadowy figure standing completely still under the street lamp, facing directly toward them. Unsettled, our narrator quickly went back into the tent, zipped it up, and glanced back out, only to find that the figure had vanished into thin air. Shaking off the creepiness, they fell back asleep. The next day passed with normal camping fun, though our narrator couldn't shake the memory of the tall figure. When they mentioned it to the family, their dad and older sister joked that it was just Slender Man, or a slender squirrel, teasing them throughout the day. When the night fell again, our narrator was fast asleep until a sudden sound jolted them awake. Heavy, incredibly slow footsteps were walking across the wooden deck right outside their tent. Sitting up silently, our narrator counted the bodies inside. All 5 family members were safely tucked into their sleeping bags. That meant someone or something was standing right outside the thin fabric wall. They listened in horror as the heavy boot steps slowly circled the tent, walked down the wooden steps, crunched through the gravel, and deliberately disappeared straight into the dense, dark woods beyond the campsite. Terrified, our narrator stayed awake until dawn. By the 3rd night, our narrator was utterly exhausted and terrified to go back into the tent, but eventually drifted off beside their mom. Late into the night, the silence was shattered by the loudest twig snap they had ever heard. Instantly, aggressive stomping echoed across the deck as someone ran straight toward the tent entrance. Our narrator felt the whole tent shift and pressed inward as a body brushed against the fabric wall next to them. Panicking, our narrator began desperately shaking their mom awake. Then, a zipper started moving. The back flap of the tent was slowly being unzipped from the outside. Our narrator finally got their mom's attention, whispering frantically that someone was trying to break in. Her initial annoyance faded when our narrator begged her to wake their dad up. Sensing the terror, their dad grabbed a flashlight, unzipped the front flap, and shined the beam around the dark campsite. Nothing was there. The 4th night, their last night before heading home, the fear reached its boiling point. It had turned bitterly cold, and our narrator lay awake shivering, staring at the roof of the tent. Then came the slow, heavy dragging of feet through the gravel outside. The footsteps stopped right beside the deck. A second later, a sharp object poked hard against the side of the tent. Then it plunged straight through. An 8-inch blade sliced right through the wall just a foot away from our narrator. Our narrator began screaming hysterically, waking the entire family into complete chaos. As everyone scrambled, our narrator looked directly at the freshly torn opening in the tent wall. Staring back at them through the slit was a pair of glowing yellow eyes. A pale white, disgustingly wrinkled face pressed up against the hole, showing a mouth full of crooked teeth, smiling right at them. Hands began tearing at the fabric to make the hole bigger. Our narrator's dad grabbed his pistol and cocked it with a loud clack. The sound instantly scared the figure off. The face vanished. Heavy footsteps pounded across the deck, and someone sprinted into the dark forest. Their dad pursued them with a flashlight, pointing his gun into the woods, but the intruder had completely vanished into the night. The police were called, a sweep of the area was conducted, but no suspect was found. The family spent the rest of the night terrified, waiting for dawn. When the morning sun finally broke through and the birds began to sing, they packed up their gear in record time and left. To this day, our narrator has only gone tent camping once since, and they still wonder who or what was watching them from the trees. That brings us to the end of our stories for tonight. If you've had your own true paranormal or non-paranormal creepy experiences, I would absolutely love to hear them. You can send your stories to me at curiouscatstories@gmail.com. Again, that's curiouscatstories@gmail.com. Please let me know in your email if you prefer to remain completely anonymous or if there is a specific fake name you'd like me to use. This is a safe space, and your comfort is always a top priority here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to help our cozy corner of the internet grow. Let me know down in the comments which of tonight's tales gives you the biggest chills. You can also leave your own spooky experiences in the comment section as well. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and to all my curious kitties, stay curious. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.